the deeper life church girl who backslid while trying to win a playboy. Esther had been raised in the ways of the Lord, born into a strict deeper life Christian home. She grew up under firm discipline, no makeup, no flashy clothes, no secular music, no unnecessary association with unbelievers. She was known for her modesty, her deep prayer life, and her commitment to evangelism. At just 22, she was already a role model in her church. Many admired her passion for winning souls. She had one mission: to bring lost souls to Christ, no matter who they were. But then she met Tony, a smooth talker, a charmer, a man who lived for pleasure. Esther saw him as a soul to the one. What she didn't realize was that she was the one about to be lost. It started with a simple evangelism outing. Esther and some members of her church had gone to share the gospel in a popular hangout spot, where she encountered Tony. He leaned against his sports car, a smirk playing on his lips. "Church girl, right?" "Yes," she answered boldly. He chuckled. "I admire religious girls, but tell me, what do you really gain from all these church rules? No fun, no parties, no love life. Doesn't it get boring?" She smiled. True joy comes from knowing Christ. Intrigued by her confidence, he asked more questions, pretending to be interested in her faith. "Would you be more willing to tell me more over coffee?" Esther hesitated. A one-on-one meeting. It wasn't against everything she had been taught, but wasn't this an opportunity to bring him to Christ? Against her better judgment, she agreed, and that was the beginning of her fall. Their meetings became frequent. At first, it was all about evangelism. She would talk about Jesus and he would listen attentively, but soon the conversations shifted. He would crack filthy jokes. She would blush. He started complimenting her voice, her smile, her natural beauty without makeup. She convinced herself she was in control. After all, she wasn't doing anything wrong. Then one day, he asked, "Why do you dress like an old woman? You're beautiful, Esther. Let the world see it." She laughed it off, but found herself standing in front of the mirror that night, staring at her simple gown. The next Sunday, she wore a slightly more fitted dress. No one noticed except Tony. "You look good," he whispered after service, and for the first time, she felt a strange thrill. Just a small change, she told herself, nothing serious, but small compromises led to bigger ones. One evening, Tony invited her to dinner, just to celebrate our friendship, he said. She hesitated. It was a fancy restaurant outside her usual environment, but her heart betrayed her. Okay, she agreed. That night, she wore light makeup for the first time, just powder and lip gloss, nothing excessive. Tony was mesmerized. "Wow, Esther, if I didn't know better, I would think you were a model." Her heart fluttered. Over dinner, he didn't challenge her faith. He didn't push her boundaries. He just made her feel seen. And that was the real trap. After that night, prayer became harder. The Bible felt distant. Guilt gnawed at her, but she silenced it with excuses. "I'm just trying to win his souls. Jesus dined with sinners too." Then came the real test. One evening, after a casual hangout, Tony offered to drop her at home. But when they got to his house, he said, "Just come in for a minute. I have something to show you." She hesitated. Every alarm in her spirit screamed no. But her flesh said, "What's the harm?" She stepped inside, and that night she stepped outside God's will. The guilt was unbearable. For the first time in years, Esther couldn't pray. She skipped choir rehearsals. She avoided church members. Tony, on the other hand, had changed. He got what he wanted. The chase was over, and now he barely returned her calls. One evening, she sat at the back of the church, her head bowed in shame. The preacher's voice rang out, "Be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. What fellowship has righteousness with darkness?" She ran out in tears. That night, she knelt down and cried bitterly. "Lord, I have failed you. I thought I was winning a soul, but I lost mine instead." And then she heard it, that still small voice, "Return to me and I will restore you." It wasn't easy, but Esther repented. She confessed to her pastor. She cut off all ties with Tony. She surrounded herself with strong believers who helped her regain her fire. It took months, but slowly she healed. She learned the hard way that not every believer is an assignment, some are a trap. And when God says, "Do not be equally yoked," it's not a suggestion, it's a warning. Standing before the youth fellowship one day, she shared her story. "Brethren, not all evangelism is God's will. Some people will pretend to seek Christ, but are really there to pull you down. If you are not spiritually strong enough to win them, they will win you. Guard your heart, guard your relationship, guard your fire." As she spoke, she saw young girls in the audience nodding, some wiping silent tears. She had been their warning. And maybe, just maybe, her stories had saved another Esther from making the same mistake. And maybe, just maybe, her story had saved another Esther from making the same mistake. If you are on fire for God, be careful who you surround yourself with. The enemy doesn't always come with horns. Sometimes he comes wrapped in charms and sweet words. Stay vigilant, stay prayerful, and never trade your fire for fleeting pleasures.